Welcome to Making Space For, the podcast where we embark on a journey to simplify, organize, and prioritize our lives. I'm your host, Paige Rabon, and each episode will explore the art of intentional living, helping you make room for what truly matters. In a world filled with constant noise and distractions, it's easy to find ourselves surrounded by things that don't contribute to our happiness or well-being. Making Space For is your guide to decluttering not just your physical space, but also your mind and soul. We'll dive into practical tips on downsizing, right-sizing, and the transformative power of letting go. Whether you're starting a cluttered closet, pondering legacy planning, or seeking the elusive balance between work and self-care, this podcast is your sanctuary for inspiration and actionable insights. Join us as we feature experts, share personal stories, and explore the profound impact of intentional living. Together, we'll navigate the journey towards a simpler, more fulfilling life. One where you have more of what matters and less of what doesn't. So are you ready to make space for the life you've always wanted? Let's dive in. This is Making Space For. Well, before we dive into today's episode, a quick shout out to our flagship company, A Move Handled with Care. As Denver Metro's premier senior and specialty move management expert since 2007, we've mastered the art of downsizing, right-sizing, organizing, and every step in between. From packing and moving to unpacking and staging, our experienced staff represent all stages of life, offering a compassionate touch to what matters most to you. So, if you're looking to make a seamless transition while keeping what truly matters in focus, trust A Move Handled with Care. Visit us at amovehandledwithcare.com or on Facebook or LinkedIn to discover the difference. Let's continue making space for the life you deserve. Welcome back to the Making Space For podcast. I'm your host, Paige Rabon, and in today's episode, we're excited to feature Emily Lonborg, co-owner of the Steller Group, as our senior real estate specialist. Emily brings a wealth of experience and a unique focus on overall project management for home sales, particularly for seniors. With over 2 decades of expertise in real estate and mortgage banking, Emily works tirelessly to ensure her clients receive the highest level of service and exceptional outcomes. Whether you're navigating a move or looking to understand how to best position your home for sale, Emily's insights on managing the complexities of selling a home for seniors will be invaluable. This is Making Space For, understanding your home as an asset. Yeah, it's fun that you're here because we were just talking about like educational stuff and learning from each other. And, you know, your real estate group has been a great partnership for us, and we've learned a lot through working with you guys. And so thanks for coming. And,
absolutely. Thank you for having me here today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I guess let's dive in. Tell me a little bit about who you are. How did you get into this space? Kind of what does your journey look like?
Absolutely. So my name is Emily Lonborg, and I'm the co-owner of the Steller Group, and we're a real estate company. I partnered with my partner, Conrad Steller, hence our name, Steller Group, 15 years ago, and just started, kind of growing our team and growing our business. And along that path, just through our own personal experiences, through experiences with our own parents, with friends of our parents and things like that, we started just really to see a need in the community for seniors who are downsizing and how much they really need help with, and all the resources that are really go into a senior move. It's so different.
So different.
Yeah.
That's what we say all the time. It's a different kind of move.
Yeah. When you move or I move or young people move, I mean, there's so many more moving parts. There's a lifetime worth of everything to deal with. There's a lot of emotional components with it. And we just kind of slowly over time started figuring out, like, how can we partner with other people and put together a really comprehensive program to kind of help people project manage their move, because it's overwhelming. Sometimes just thinking about, I have 10 different people I have to call to try to figure out how to do a downsizing move. Well, what if, one resource that could kind of help you connect with a lot of these different
and
people.
You guys have a special designation, which if you don't know anything about the real estate world, tell us about what that designation is and what and who has it, who doesn't, what does it mean?
So all of our agents are certified senior real estate specialists. So basically that means they went through additional education to really learn and become certified on how to best assist seniors with a downsizing move. And that means to us, we're really dedicated to being in this space. We're really dedicated to helping the seniors who are trying to make these downsized moves. And how can we help them best deal with it? Because it's not just about selling your house.
Right.
It's about so much more.
So much more.
Yeah.
Well, and so it's an SRES, correct?
That's right.
And that is not it's not exclusive to Colorado. It's nationwide.
No, it's a nationwide
It's nationwide. So when
certification.
you see that certification, people can know that is maybe the forefront of they're just really tailoring that
exactly.
move for them.
It means that realtor is really dedicated to working in the senior space, really has taken the time to get further education, to understand, not just lots of realtors can sell houses. That's the easy part. I mean, truly, and everything we're talking about today, selling the house itself is kind of the easy part. It's everything else that goes along with it that really is kind of the meat of what's going on for seniors.
And so what are you seeing? I guess we can only really speak to the Denver market, but what are you seeing in the senior housing industry? Like, what are you seeing as maybe sticking points or trends or things that you are something that kind of comes up a lot with your senior population?
Well, I think the hardest thing for seniors is making the decision on whether or not to move. And a lot of times that's the decision on where do I go from here? That can be one of, I think a lot of times we've spent a lot of time over the years talking about that. What comes first for seniors? And I think a lot of times it's where do I go from here? Because if I'm going to leave the house I've been living in for 30 years or 40 years, it's very comfortable here. It might not be that comfortable because it might be too big for me. It might be too much maintenance. It might be costing me a lot in heating and cooling. There might be a lot of yard work that I can't really do anymore, but it's a known. I know what I know what this is. And if I go somewhere else, I don't know what that's going to be about.
Sure.
And so I think that's kind of one of the first steps that can be the biggest stumbling block. And of course, the second one, and this ties in very closely with what you guys do, is the stuff. The downsizing process. Our homes are full of our memories in our minds, but they're chock full of our memories stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of twofold. Both those things are the number one kind of stumbling blocks, or the first two things that a senior has to tackle really to be able to take that next step toward the move.
Well, and then, I don't know if this is in just real estate in general, but like we've noticed too that the generations that are coming up are more transient, and our seniors have been in their homes for a long time. That is what we notice is, you can have somebody who's in a traditional residential who's moved multiple times in the last decade.
Yes.
Versus a senior who maybe has moved maybe once or twice in the last few decades.
Yes. I mean, we come across a lot of seniors who are living in the one home they've lived in their entire life.
Right.
Or maybe two, because you're right. I mean, people didn't move the way they do now. We can say that for a lot of different things. People didn't travel the way they do now. The world wasn't as open as it is now. People tended to put down roots and really stay where they were a lot more than people do now.
So we tell our clients a lot, because we've learned from you all too, is really talking about their home as an asset.
Yes.
So speak to that a little bit about, how do people look at it as an asset that can help for whatever reasons they're looking for financially? Because I think sometimes they're like, oh, well, I need to sell all the things in our home, and they look at that as like where they're going to make their money versus looking at the bigger picture.
Absolutely. I mean, people do. That is so true. I love that you said that, because people do feel like, okay, I'm going to have a huge estate sale and I'm going to make tens of thousands of dollars, and that's really going to help fund XYZ in the future. And that's just not true. I mean, estate sales, yes, they can bring in some money, but basically we like to say, and I think you guys probably say too, it's covering the cost of the move is kind of what your estate sale is doing. That's how much money.
I mean, we did a podcast on that. Like, I mean, how many of our clients want to do an estate sale, and for one of a myriad of reasons, they're either not an advocate or they're not a candidate or the timing doesn't work or whatever the case may be. So yes, they always think that, but like their house as an asset. House
is their asset. And really for most of us, I mean, I think probably all generation of homeowners, your house is your biggest investment, right? It's the thing that holds most of your money. We like to say for seniors that your home is really your nest egg for that future. You've been living there probably on the low end, 20 years for a lot of people, all the way up to 30, 40, maybe 50 years for some of these folks. And that is where their money is. A lot of them, probably most of them, are owning their homes free and clear. And how can they use that asset to help for their future? And it's a couple of different ways. Number one, funding your housing for the future, no matter what you're looking to do. Some seniors are looking just to downsize into maybe another single family home that's smaller. You know, they might be looking to downsize into a condo where they want a lock and leave lifestyle because they want to do a little more traveling, or a townhome or something like that. And then there's the seniors who are looking to get into a senior living community because they want the socialization and activities, or because maybe physically they need a little bit of assisted living and they need a little bit of help. So tapping into your equity, selling that biggest asset you have that, you know, I mean, in this surrounding area, we're talking a lot of times upwards of $1 million or more that some of these houses are selling for. It's a lot of money. It's not only going to help you get into your next living situation, again, whether it's another home or a senior living community, but it's also going to be money probably left over that is going to help with your living expenses, money that, you know, if you're going to a senior living community, help pay your monthlies and things like that. Or, I mean, let's face it, a lot of people have long-term care needs and long-term care expenses, and your house can be, you know, a vehicle to helping finance some of that.
Yeah. Well, and then, you know, how do people maximize their value in that asset? You know, if you turn on, I know you guys have talked about this in educational promotional things, but like when you turn on the TV right now, like HGTV effect, right? Everything's beautiful and upgraded and modern. And they're thinking, gosh, my house is old and I still have like a, you know, a mauve toilet, you know? So how do they maximize that? And how does that become more approachable? In thinking about selling their home?
I mean, many years ago when we kind of entered into this senior real estate, working in senior real estate, we realized that if they would put even just a little bit of money up front into some pre-listing improvements, a lot of times they were getting 2 or 3 times back on the investment they were putting in. I would say in general, you know, doing some small things, even like carpet and paint, things that are going to make the house feel really move-in ready. Because let's think about home buyers these days. Whether they're single or they're a couple, they're most certainly going to be full-time working. They're going to be busy. A lot of times they're going to have kids. And they have good jobs. They can make the purchase. They could buy an $800,000 house, which seems like, I mean, like especially a senior thinking about a house that they
bought for maybe $250 or less.
Or $80,000 maybe, right? And now they're looking at somebody who's going to buy that same house for $800,000. That's a lot of money. That's a huge mortgage payment. At a 20% down payment, $160,000. You put your closing costs in, which is probably another $20,000 or $30,000. This is a lot of money. By the time they move in, they don't have a lot left over financially, and they don't have a lot of bandwidth. Again, they have busy lives. They're working full-time jobs. They might be 2 working parents, those kinds of things. So the more move-in ready a home is, and move-in ready can just be fresh carpet and paint, right? There can be remodeling projects that really need to be done that they think, I can take that on over time. I can't take on before I even move in, having to start doing some remodeling. And they also kind of overinflate what some of these costs might be. Oh my gosh, if I have to put new carpet in a home, that's going to cost me $40,000 or something, which of course it's not. So doing some of these upfront renovations, I guess, or improvements makes the home move-in ready, makes a home more sellable. You know, when we're in a little bit of a more competitive market, where there's a little bit more on the market, those homes are the ones that are going to attract the buyers first because, hey, I can put my money down, I can close, I can move in next weekend, and I can start living life. So, you know, each individual's home is unique and each situation is unique, but most people can benefit from doing some of these pre-listing improvements.
You know, you brought up a good point that in Colorado right now, you know, our real estate market has always been very, very strong. And while I think it's still strong, they say, it's definitely taken a turn.
It is. I mean,
and so we have seen in our industry, we have seen less moving in general, just less moving. I'm sure as you've seen less buying and selling of homes. But seniors then are getting nervous because they're like, well, should I wait?
Exactly.
So what are you telling people as they're asking that question right now?
That's a really good question. We all have to remember the real estate market, just like the stock market, is always going to be moving, right? It's always up, it's always down. Inventory is up and down. Home sales are up and down. Pricing is up and down. That's going to be a constant. For a senior making a move, it's really about the timing, right? When is it right in your life that you need to do this? Again, think about how long you've owned this home. 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. we're back to, you might have bought the house for $150,000 30 years ago, and it's worth $900,000 now.
Right.
If it's going to be worth $910,000 next year, does that turn the dial for you, right? So it's really about the timing. What is happening in your life that is making it that you need to make this move today? We have seen unprecedented increase in value in our homes, even in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Right now, it's a little more flat, right?
Which is, we're all freaking out in Colorado because we're like, wait a minute.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, wait a minute. I mean, this is how it goes. Yeah.
Right? We're not really, we're not seeing like in the early 2000s, you know, up until about 2008, you know, those kinds of time frames, we were seeing decrease in value. We're not seeing that. We're just seeing values hold steady. But regardless, these seniors have a lot of equity in their home, and it's their ticket to their future. And when is the time right for you? Because, like I talked about earlier, the home maintenance is becoming overwhelming. The stairs are becoming dangerous.
Yes.
The yard work, the shoveling, those kinds of things where you could actually physically hurt yourself by continuing to try to maintain this home.
Yep.
Okay, it might be time for me to go. I'm having some memory issues. I live alone. It might be time for me to get into a safer environment. The real estate market shouldn't determine that for a senior move.
Yeah. Well, and I would say too, probably, I'm sure once you go in and see what they're looking at, it also probably depends on the neighborhood they live in.
Yeah.
I mean, some of it may not be as daunting. I would imagine there's certain neighborhoods where you could literally just move out tomorrow as is, and people would pay top dollar based on the neighborhood.
Exactly. And just because things maybe are taking, I think we get used to how things are going so quickly. And so over the last several years, we've gotten used to, you put a home on the market and it's going to sell the first weekend.
Yeah.
Well, now if it's taking 30 days to sell, it's like, oh my gosh, what's wrong? The market's so tough. Well, that's not tough. I mean, again, back in 2008, it would take 6 months to sell a house, right? And they were still selling for, at that time, decent prices. It just took a while, right?
Yeah.
30 days isn't a big deal.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Because I do think there's a lot of, fear right now.
Fear in the market.
What do we do?
Yeah.
Do we just stay put? And I think, we see people stay put because they get paralyzed by the stuff.
Yes.
You see people, I'm sure, get paralyzed because they're like, well, what if I could get more for my house?
Exactly.
Or is this the wrong time to sell?
Exactly.
But it's like, what are you gaining?
By waiting.
By
what are you
waiting?
gaining? And also, what are you risking by waiting?
Yes.
I mean, we don't know.
Another winter.
Another winter. Exactly. And just, you have to think about how many more summers do you have? How many more winters do you have? And how can you extend your life in the healthiest way possible?
Sure. So how do you guys sometimes know our clients before we do?
Yeah.
Most of the time you know them. How do you help them navigate the emotional side?
I mean, the emotional side of moving is the biggest part. Our homes, like I said, kind of in the beginning when we started talking, our homes are chock full of our memories and our stuff. And how do we start unpacking that and dealing with it? And your company, A Move Handled with Care, I mean, you're a first step for a lot of people because they need to start somewhere, and that can be paralyzing. Like, I have this 30 years worth of stuff. I still have my kids' stuff in my house. I have my parents from when they passed away.
Yep.
And these are all treasures in a lot of different ways. Number one, open up the conversation with your family. I think a lot of us are saving things, me included, by the way, that we're just sure our kids are going to want someday.
Yeah.
And guess what? I mean, between my husband and I, we've had 4 kids leave the house, and none of them have wanted stuff that we have. They just don't. Start that conversation with your kids because there might be things that are important to them. What do they want? And then what are you left with? What can you take with you? What's reasonable to where you're going to be going? And again, with you guys, Move Handled with Care, that's something you'll do. You'll go in and have that appointment with them to kind of get them kickstarted.
Yep.
What room do I start in? What's a checklist I start with? How do I start going through things first? And really, I think you probably tell your clients it's one drawer at a time. It's one closet at a time.
Yeah.
It's one room at a time. It's slowly and carefully going through some of these items. We have a book we recommend to people, and you guys might too, by Matt Paxton.
Matt Paxton, yep. Keep the stuff. Lose the stuff.
Keep the memories. Keep the memories.
Lose the stuff. Yes.
Keep the memories. Lose the stuff by Matt Paxton.
Yeah.
And it's really about that emotional journey of what you do with your stuff. And there's a lot of things you can do too to document some of your things, and a lot of tricks that you can just so you're not giving everything away without kind of preserving some of the memories.
Yeah. And I think you go in, and you also have in the Steller Group a special kind of project management side to what you do as far as like construction and helping folks with those renovations.
Absolutely.
So you can give them the full picture, the financial end game, and then work backwards from there. And so I think sometimes they don't see all of that.
Yes.
And so having a roadmap of, financially this is the advantage, and then backing it up. What are the service providers that you need to get involved? Is it just paint? Is it just this? Do we need to get a new roof? Like, what are the things that you need to do to really get this house ready for sale?
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of folks are even just afraid to get the roadmap.
Exactly. And that's free, right?
Yes, that part
there's
is
no
free.
cost involved in just the kind of the education process of it. We're happy to come in. We always say we'll come in 2 to 5 years before you're ready to really make the move, because that's what's going to kind of, knowledge is power, education, all of that stuff. Okay, here's what it might look like for you if you're going to move in 3 years, and here's the steps you need to start on. So it can be kind of a slow process. You don't want to wait too long, because here's the thing for seniors, you want to be making your own choices. You don't want some kind of triggering event. We talk about it all the time in both of our businesses. You don't want a triggering event to happen, and then suddenly you're not making the choices you want to make for how you want to live and where you want to be. Now it's an emergency. It's an emergency, and everything's just going out the door.
Yeah. Well, and that's a really good point. And, we talk about that a lot, is that if you have time, you have choices.
Yep.
And, down the road, and I think that's the other thing is, for example, we talked about a sale. And some renovations. Okay, well, if those are things that like you said, 2 to 3 years ahead of time, if we come in and say, we can see ooh, there's some special things in this house. Hey, you are eligible for a sale. That's going to relieve them immediately of, how do I downsize? How do I get through it? It's like, no, now we're just going to focus on what we're keeping. Because now we have a plan.
Yes.
We're going to, get your adult daughter the things she wants. You're going to pick out the things you want. And then we already have a plan for what's left. Or the flip side, we're not a candidate for a sale. They need a ton of, maybe, house maintenance stuff they can chip away at it slowly.
Exactly. And it doesn't feel horribly overwhelming.
And so it's like now I can just have one step at a time.
Yeah.
So it can be one of two ways or even in the middle. And I think that's the thing is people feel like, well, they have to wait for there to be an event.
Yeah.
And that's not the best solution.
Or I need to be ready to move this summer if I'm going to call the realtor because, they're going to be calling me and pressuring me, and I don't want anyone to pressure me, and I don't, but that's not the case. I mean, again, specializing and working in the senior world, it's a long game.
It totally is.
It's patience, and it's not pressure. It's helping educate so that you're doing it methodically and thoughtfully.
Well, and I'm sure like us, we've had, referral partners that have come along that have taught us how to do it better.
Yeah.
So you can, somebody's like, well, I want to sell my house, but I don't know where to go. Well, now you've got resources in your back
Absolutely.
pocket. That's not our area of expertise, but let us do that. And then you can help them navigate. Okay, well, if you're, some of them are a buy-in, so you can help them navigate, rolling in that equity and how that looks. And so that's the thing is we've all learned how to make it better, how to do it better.
Right. I think as we built this senior business, even though it's a real estate business. I mean, at the end of the day, that's how we make money, right? We sell homes and that's how we make money. But in working in the senior realm, it's really about kind of helping seniors to project manage the whole move. And that's how all of us work together. So they might come to us and we can help them by giving them trusted resources like a move handled with care, who's going to come in and help you declutter and downsize. And then they're also going to come back and they're going to help you pack, and they're going to move you, and they're going to unpack you. That's a huge piece. Where are you going to go? Well, you know what? If you want to buy a place, we can help you with that. But if you want to look at senior living communities, how do I know what they offer, how much they cost, what the amenities are? Is there continuing care? We're not an expert at that. You're not an expert at that, but we know somebody who is, that a trusted referral partner who is a senior move manager and who knows about all the communities, a trusted referral partner who is an estate attorney who specifically works in estates and making sure that your affairs are in order. Do you have a trust? Are you maximizing on your any tax implications? Those kinds of things. So that you're not out there as a senior trying to figure out who are all these pieces I need. If you come to us, we can refer you to all these trusted professional people who are going to help you navigate.
And it makes the
picture.
package deal go so much smoother.
So much smoother.
So much smoother. And, at the end of the day, I think that's the thing is we are trying to do the best for our clients.
Yeah.
And sometimes the best for our clients is not just our service.
Yeah.
It becomes this little village of people.
Village is the exact right word. A senior move takes a village.
Totally.
I would say with younger people, it doesn't. They're going to pack for themselves. They don't have that much stuff. They are going to just get their friends and a 12-pack of beer and a pizza and a pickup
They're
truck.
way too old for that now, yeah.
But that's how a lot of younger people are making that move, right? And it's really simple. When you come to a senior move, there are so many parts and pieces that need to be in order, and it takes the village of people who work together.
And it shouldn't always fall to adult children.
No.
Some we have that don't have that. And so how do you create a village or even help support adult children who are still working and raising kids and doing all the things?
That sandwich generation, right?
Yeah. I mean, we're all facing that now. It's like, what can we offset to somebody else who's like better at that and the emotional toll that it takes.
I think a lot of what we've learned is by doing some of this stuff ourselves in our own personal lives.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, when my parents passed away and we were moving and we were trying to figure things out, that's where a lot of what we're doing kind of was born.
Are there certain home improvements, and we kind of talked about that a little bit, that are really worth, like, somebody's going to look at, I need to redo my whole kitchen because it's outdated. I really need to do that, the master bathroom. Yeah. Are there things that you have noticed in the real estate market that really move the needle for people?
Yeah, and we touched on it a little bit. You're going to get the biggest bang for your buck by doing just some basics, including carpet, flooring, painting. Again, the things that make it feel like, hey, I have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I want to walk in and I want to put them down on the ground and I'm going to start unpacking and I feel like it's clean and it's moving ready and we can start living life tomorrow. Yeah, maybe I don't love that master bathroom, but I can update that over time. It's clean. It's ready to go. So again, though carpet and paint are going to be your top investments you put into your house. Some people want to do a little bit more. Maybe their kitchen is completely original 1960s and they really do want to update it, especially if other areas of the house are updated. If the entire house is original, might make sense to kind of leave it and let somebody update it to their own taste over time. But let's say you've done everything in your house but the kitchen or but the master bath. Then it might make sense to say, what could we do to tune this last thing up that's really going to up your value? We never want to come in and put money into a house that you're not going to, at minimum, get a 2-time result back, right? Because then you're just throwing money at something for no reason. So sometimes each individual unique case, it might make sense to put in some money into a kitchen or a bathroom because those are the other areas you're going to get the most bang for your buck. And really it's having somebody come in from our team to walk through with you and talk about what makes sense. A lot of people say, hey, I'm not going to move for 3 years, but I'd like to update my kitchen and I want to enjoy it for the next 3 years because I'm excited about it. I do watch HGTV. Yeah. I do love what they do. If I'm going to put X amount of money into a kitchen, I want to enjoy it for a while. Yeah. Great. Have us come in and help talk you through it so we can talk about the trends and what is really buyer friendly and what's going to help your house sell the best. Because we'll have people come to us and say, oh my gosh, I'm going to put in a fabulous outdoor kitchen. That's cool. But you're probably not going to get your best return on
unless you wanted to use it for whatever
exactly.
reason.
If you just want it for yourself because you're going to be there for 5 years, put in that fabulous outdoor kitchen. But if you're doing that because you think it's going to turn the dial on your sale and you're going to get a lot more money for it, it might not. I'm not saying it never would. Depends on the house. But having somebody come over, again, even a few years out and say, these are the improvements I'm getting ready to make. Great. And again, we have a sister company, Steller Renovation Solutions. We can even help give you some bids. So you're not calling 5 different contractors and saying, I need to get all these bids. We can put together a comprehensive bid and kind of talk you through it.
So, I mean, there's a million, like in our industry too, there's a million competitors. There's a million, everybody knows 10 realtors, right? So what are some tips and tricks that you think, senior or not, that you should do to interview your real estate agents and to really kind of feel like, what are the questions that you should be asking to feel comfortable with making a decision with the realtor?
Well, I think starting by just researching your realtor, or if it's a team, like, we have a team of realtors that work together. I think that it's important to understand what their business looks like, what they specialize in. Any realtor can come put a sign in your yard, get you in the MLS, and get you on the market, right? But what does the comprehensive marketing program look like? What kind of photography are they doing? What do they do virtual tours? You know, those kinds of things, understanding the marketing. Do they do home staging? I will say that I think is one of our biggest selling features is we do complimentary home staging. Whether you're going to be living in the house and you just need somebody to come in and work with you on your own stuff, moving things around, decluttering, getting rid of some stuff. Or whether you're going to have a vacant home, we know research shows and facts show that a staged home is going to sell quicker and for more money than a vacant home. The spaces just look different.
They do.
And a lot of people are like, oh, but it's going to look so much bigger if it's empty. Crazy, not true though.
Yeah.
I mean, when you put furniture in, it actually makes the spaces look bigger, and it makes it so you understand in the photos what these spaces are. A dining room and a photo
versus a blank,
might
just
look like
room.
a bedroom, right? Or whatever. It's like, what are these spaces? You're trying to get buyers through the door that are looking on their phone at this tiny little picture, and you want them to understand the flow of the house and the space. So I think it's having those kinds of conversations. How are you going to market my home? What kind of services do you offer? Can you help me project manage my move? What is my responsibility versus what are you able to help me with throughout this process? What kind of referral partners do you have?
Yeah. Well, and I know in the real estate market too, in the last, couple of years, there's been some weird things come out, and, you know, things about buyer's commission, seller commission, all that kind of jazz. How has that affected the real estate market? And really kind of what are like the misnomers about how that's working or not working?
Sure. So the NAR settlement is what you're referring to, which was settled in August, and some new rules came into play in August. And I will say, in general, it has not had a huge impact on our real estate market here in Denver. So traditionally, before the NAR settlement, buyer agent commission was always just advertised in the MLS, and it was typically somewhere in the neighborhood of 2.5 to 3.0, right? So 2.5 to 3%. And for some reason, and this has been for 21 years since I've been doing this, 2.8% was always kind of a magic number, and it just went in the MLS. Well, it's not advertised that way anymore. Now it's part of your offer process. So upfront, your realtor, your listing agent should always talk to you about buyer agent commission. That, you know, your listing agent's going to talk to you about their own commission. What are they going to charge to be your listing agent to market and sell and negotiate on your behalf? But then they're going to talk about, are you willing to pay a buyer agent commission? And here's what we're seeing typically in the market, because it's going to be part of that purchase offer now. When a seller receives a purchase offer, the buyer agent compensation is right there in the offer, saying whether a seller's going to pay it or a buyer's going to pay it or how it's going to work. And I will say, I don't know that we have had one transaction since last August where the seller didn't pay some amount of seller or buyer agent commission. It's just not happening. I mean, again, back to the example of you're buying an $800,000 house, you're putting 20% down, you're paying closing costs. Does that buyer have another 2.5% on top of that to pay a realtor? And 9 times out of 10, it's no, they do not.
So you build that into your structure on the front end.
Exactly. We're giving them the education and the knowledge up front on what to expect. Because if a seller says, I'm just not going to pay a buyer agent commission, they can do that. Absolutely. That is the seller is the one calling the shots, but it's going to put them at a disadvantage of selling their house.
Yeah. And you haven't seen, I mean, because it was quite the hubbub when it first came out, but you haven't really seen it be that big of a sticking point for people.
We have not seen it be any kind of sticking point. I mean, pretty much it's written up a different way, but the same compensation in general.
So it's basically just being a little bit more maybe transparent
is what it is, which is actually a really good thing. And that was the whole point. I would say our contracts here in Colorado were fairly transparent anyway. None of the lawsuits happened here locally. None of what was going on and what was involved in the NAR settlement happened here locally, because all of our buyer agent contracts and listing agent contracts already kind of outlined compensation.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
How do you handle a client who, you know, maybe has been checking around and looking at things and really wants to sell their home for an unrealistic number? How do you navigate talking with them about, especially now that our market's softening a bit, and there's a little bit more inventory on the market, things like that? How do you navigate? I mean, just like us, like we're like, well, that's too expensive to move. And it's like, well, you haven't moved. And I mean, so you have to kind of navigate what that means. How do you navigate that?
Well, I mean, first of all, just educating them, right? Sitting down, pulling up the MLS where the recent solds are and going through all the photos and even maybe touring through some of the competition. Hey, this house is listed at $750. You feel like you should be at $850, but they've updated their kitchen and you haven't. They live right down the street from you. They're next to a park and you're not. Just kind of trying to educate them on what the market is. Because yes, you're right. Most people come into, before they ever even call a realtor, they kind of have in their mind
the number
that they want. And sometimes it's the conversation is, but this is what I need. I need this for
money.
XYZ.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I wish that's how the market worked, but it's really important for you to be realistic because otherwise you're setting yourself up for failure. And if you are in a $750,000 market and you decide to price it $850,000, you're putting yourself at a huge disadvantage because number one, the market's not going to come into your home. So pretty quickly, the market is going to tell you you're not priced right because either you're not going to get showings or you won't get very many. And the ones that you do get are going to give that feedback that you're just not priced right. I'm picking something else.
Sure.
And so then you start chasing the market down, right? It is pretty typical in our market right now for there to be some price drops, to kind of go out at a price and then do a little bit of price adjusting over the first few weeks. That's not unusual. But if you're overshooting by $100,000, let's say overshooting by $50,000, as you start to work your way down, you've already lost a lot of the buyer pool.
And a lot of traction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's really important to be realistic in what the market is, what homes in your area are selling for. And it's not about what you want or need. It's about what the market is willing to bear.
Yeah. That's the same thing with trying to sell your things. Selling your things has nothing to do with what you paid for it. It has to do what a buyer will pay for it.
Exactly.
And that's the difference in, understanding that too. And I think that's when you haven't moved or haven't sold a house or whatever the case may be, you have sometimes a skewed version of what reality is.
Yeah.
And how do you value the expertise of others to say, you can do it cheaper or you can do whatever the case may be, but it's what are you willing to kind of navigate and lose or gain in that process?
What are you paying for?
Yes.
Right? Because I think everybody knows you get what you pay for in the end, right? You can try to work around the system. You can try to do things as cheaply as possible, but you're going to get what you pay for.
Yeah. Or something will, not go right and things like that. So 100%. Well, the title of our podcast is the Making Space For podcast. And so I love to ask people, what does using a real estate company like yours, design like yours, how does that help create space for your clients and customers?
Well, I would say it maybe gives them back time in their life a little bit and that's a lot of space, right? Gaining time by not being completely overwhelmed, not feeling alone, not having to reinvent the wheel, not having to come up with all the answers, all the resources. We became dedicated about 10 years ago to putting on an educational program, especially in this senior space, because we figured out, we've said this already. I've said this already today. Knowledge is power. And really trying to figure out where do I start, right? And what are my resources that feel so overwhelming? Start with education, right? And we put on an educational program various times throughout the year. You guys are a part of a bunch of our education.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because there's tons of ways to, especially in the Denver metro area, if you want to get involved, there's tons of education that you provide, that we provide, together we provide.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We do a lot of seminars together on the decluttering process. We do seminars on 55 plus living options. We do seminars on just selling your house. What does that look like? What are pre-listing improvements and staging? What is that stuff all about? We bring in an estate attorney to talk about it, and they're all listed at denverseniorseminars.com is a website that has all of our seminars listed. Start getting education. We have seniors who will come repeatedly to our education series throughout the year. They'll come for 3 or 4 years and we'll see them. We'll see them coming, popping back into our seminar. They came to the exact same seminar maybe last fall. Maybe they came this time last year.
Well, and you host them all over the Denver metro area. So sometimes I will say sometimes that hits differently when you're in a senior living community. Sometimes they're hosted in a senior living community. So you can envision it and see it and touch it. Even if it's not the one, maybe it's the feel that they're looking for. Can be at a library. But definitely I was going to mention that there's a lot of educational resources that we provide. We were just chatting before this about, the reason we started this podcast is to create educational resources for people because we've learned.
Yes.
I mean, you can get in your silo of like really good at what you're good at, but if you don't have people along the journey that fill in the holes where you're missing that expertise, it doesn't make you, it makes our business better.
Well, right. I think what we're both trying to offer people is kind of that one-stop shopping.
Yes.
Who can I call that is going to help me with all the things I need help with, because it is so overwhelming. And the fact is, like, the older we get, and it's for all of us, everything gets a little bit more overwhelming. We don't have the same energy. We are more tired. Some things seem more confusing. Who can help me where I'm not trying to figure it all out by myself?
Yeah.
I think it's taking away the loneliness factor.
And it's free. You made that good point. Like, we come out for free. You all come out for free. It's free
the
to have the
educational series is all free.
All that. It's free to just have a conversation about it. You don't have to commit. No one's signing a document.
No, absolutely not.
It's just learning what the process would look like. And then if it feels like the right fit, and it feels like the right time, and the information hits them at the right time, then how does that progress forward?
Exactly. What are the next steps after that?
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, we love partnering with you all and talking about all the things downsizing, because it is true. Like, it does create a village, or we need a village, and we've tried really hard to create that village for people, especially in our market, to feel supported. Yeah. And I will say, I think we do it the best.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Thank you so much.
We really appreciate it.
Really appreciate you coming.
Thanks.
That wraps up another inspiring episode of the Making Space For podcast. A huge thank you to our incredible guest and to you, our cherished listeners. Your journey to intentional living begins with each small step, and we're honored to be a part of it. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please consider liking, subscribing, and rating our podcast on your favorite platform. Before we part ways, a friendly reminder: if you're embarking on a move or seeking expert guidance in downsizing, remember A Move Handled with Care in Denver. With over 15 years of experience in senior and specialty move management, we're here to transform your transition into a seamless, stress-free experience. Visit amovehandledwithcare.com for more information, and let's continue making space for the life you've always wanted. Until next time, stay inspired, stay intentional, and keep making space for what matters most.